Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. We are the root causes team, and we were responsible for making the admin application. So our team members are Alex, Fidel, me, Nicole, Lindsay, Bella, and Ruben. And I will hand it off to Fidel to start us off with a quick introduction.
Thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just need to.
Hello, everyone. So to give you all a quick overview of what our team will cover today, we will first talk about the context surrounding the Fresh Produce Program and what our responsibilities include. We will then dive into the problem that we face and the solution that we propose to solve it. We will also cover the tools and tech we used, the challenges we faced along the way, what our next steps are, and finally open it up to any questions that you may have. So please keep our questions on hold until the end. So to start us off, I'll let Bella give us some context on root causes.
Thank you, Fidel. The Root Causes Fresh Produce Program partners with the Duke Health System to provide food to Duke patients who struggle with food insecurity to aid in their health treatments. Our team was focused on handling the administrative responsibilities within the Fresh Produce Program. These largely consist of participant and volunteer management, which is handled primarily by one of our stakeholders, ESCO, and their caller manager, Linda. Here we have a visualization of the general weekly workflow for the Fresh Produce Program. These items in gray are tasks managed by the volunteer app. I'll be touching more on the administrative tasks. The work week starts on Monday with the admin sending out SMS texts through Dial My Call software to either participant group A or B. Then the participants are split up into two groups and receive delivery on alternating weeks. Then on Tuesday, the admin update participant status based on SMS responses and assign volunteers to call participants who require follow-up, so either non-responses and unclear responses. Wednesday through Thursday, this is stuff handled more by the volunteer app. These are when these follow-up calls occur. Then on Friday, the admin create and assign delivery routes to volunteers using a smart route software. And on Saturday is when these deliveries occur. Now Ruben will go into more detail on the problems we aim to solve within the current administrative methodology.
Thank you, Bella. So as to the problems our stakeholders are facing, the first was the use of scattered, unreliable third-party services. The apps they used include Dial My Calls, Smart Routes, various Excel sheets, and a host of third-party services. Keeping track of these services proved challenging for our stakeholders, and the reliability of some of these services was often in question. Next, when it came to organizing user information, the spreadsheet which they were using to keep track of the participant data had multiple column headers and various color schemes, making things harder to keep track of. As to the time-consuming manual labor, on the part of our stakeholders, the process of operations without one integrated platform is time-consuming and labor-intensive, and this is apparent when it comes to assigning the many volunteers Root Causes receives on a weekly basis to the many participants with different needs. And then lastly, as to making operations scalable for the future, on the current pace the organization was on,
we're tired of having so much money to actually.
It would be taxing for them to continue in a manner of trying to keep track of all these different services without one integrated platform. And for the organization's future goals of reaching out to more people and giving them real-time health information to the participants, the current method of operations just is not scalable. So our goal was to design a web app to integrate all their methodologies into one platforms and to make their operations scalable for the future. And with that, I pass it off to Alex.
Thanks, Ruben. So we used a variety of tools and technologies based on the stage and purpose for each part of our project. For our initial design and mockups, we used Figma, HTML, and CSS for rough overviews of what we thought each page would look like. And in our front end, we used JavaScript, React, and CSS. For our back end, we used Postgres, Python, Flask, SQL Alchemy, Postman, and pgadmin. More on these tools in a bit. And for project management, we use GitLab, Trello, and our whiteboards for diagramming and weekly tasks. So this leads into our database design. Like I said previously, we used Postgres. We used Postgres and pgadmin with Postman to test and validate the data. For development, the first step was to figure out which tables and fields were important to our application. Then, with the lovely help of our team lead, Vanessa, we created an ERD, which can be seen on the right, to improve our understanding of how the tables relate to each other. In all, there are 11 tables, and the two most important tables are the volunteer and participant tables, with all the other tables connected in some way to those tables. Then we map constraints, including the primary keys and foreign keys within pgadmin. And finally, we connected the database to the Flask API. So we did face several challenges, including auto-incrementing the primary key. We had trouble setting up the tables at first to automatically assign a new primary key when a new record, such as a participant or a volunteer, was added to the database. And we also had trouble with data consistency with times and dates. So we needed ample communication between the front end and the back end to make sure that the formats of those records stayed consistent. And now I'll pass it off to Nicole to show a demo of our app.
Thank you, Alex. So now I will show a video of our demo. So when I just unmuted. Okay. So when a user logs in, they will be greeted with a picture of some members from the root causes team, including our stakeholder ESCO, and then the current date. And when you click on the participant tab, you can see a table full of participants who were generated using mock data. This is not actual information, but you can see general information as well as their current delivery status. And you can reference the key at the bottom of the page so you can see what each color means for the delivery status. Now we have a search bar that you can use to search for any participant using any field that you have in the table. So first name, address, email, and even language group. And if you want to see more specific information about a participant, you can go to click on their name and you'll see different kinds of information under the tabs in that page. And if you want to update information, you can click the edit button. And then right here, we are going to change the delivery status from ready for delivery to not this week and add in an apartment field. And as you can see, these changes were updated. So now we have a different color status and we see that the participant now has an address with apartment 3 in it. And if you want to navigate to other participants' individual information page, you can just use the buttons at the bottom. When you want to add a new participant, you click on this button and just add in some general information about them, submit it, and then it should pop up in the table and in our database. And so like we said, the SMS texting is a really important process of the root causes workflow. So as you can see, it's something that we implemented using an API called Twilio. On the left, we are able to send messages and we can filter by group. So group A, group B, or a specific language. And then when we submit that, we are able to send a message to that group. And then we are able to see participant responses, which are divided into 2 different categories. Those that can be automatically updated by our machine or our computer. So yes, no, see, or things that are easy to process. And those that are a little bit more complex and need manual review by the call manager. So for example, this one says please, and we can assume that means yes. So we can go ahead and update it accordingly. Next, we can see the volunteer information, displaying information that might be relevant to the administration, such as those volunteers who have signed up for the current week, as well as a more comprehensive list of every volunteer who has signed up in the past. Now, as we said, the bulk of the labor does fall into volunteer assignments. So now we will take a look at call assignments. On this page, we see a list of participants who need a follow-up call because of their responses or not responses to the SMS text. And we can also see a list of volunteers who have signed up to be callers for that week. And when we press the generate assignments button, it assigns these participants to the volunteers based on language. But for whatever reason, if we want to switch these assignments or modify them, we can use the drag and drop feature of our page to make changes. And once we are satisfied with these assignments, we can confirm them, which sends them over to the volunteer app to be displayed. And lastly, we have the driver page. While we did not implement a routing algorithm that replaces their current third-party service smart routes, we did try to make it more compatible. So for example, we can see the drivers and the participants for this week, and we can download a CSV of all the participant addresses, which is what can be inputted into smart routes. Then smart routes will generate an output that has information about each route with the stops in the route and the duration of each route. And you can input that CSV into our page and it will be assigned to volunteers. And it will also display information about each route and each volunteer assignment. So like the start time, the duration, the number of stops in the route, as well as the number of bags that will be delivered for that route. And with that, I will conclude the demo and pass it off to Fidel to talk about some of the challenges we faced along the way.
Thank you, Nico, for the amazing demo.
Sorry.
Sorry. I will now talk on some of the challenges that we faced along the way. So our initial obstacle was understanding the complex root causes workflow and simplifying it into manageable tasks. This includes laying out all of the features that we hope to have and ranking them from essentials to nice to haves. Secondly, we struggled deciding which languages and tools would be most compatible with our goals. We've also had to frequently fight with Git, specifically with all of the merge conflicts and branching issues we faced. Additionally, integrating two-way SMS texting was another big challenge due to not having enough time to deploy our React app to a cloud computing service, which we needed to use webhooks with Twilio's API. And finally, connecting our database to our front end, so essentially making our pages full stack. And I will now hand it off to Lindsay to give you some insight on our future features.
Thank you, Fidel. Now I will be touching upon features that we unfortunately were not able to implement due to the time constraints of this program, but what we hope to see for the future of this web application. First off is automating the participant onboarding process. Right now, admin inputs new participants manually into their master spreadsheet, and they receive this information from a Qualtrics form that is submitted by the physician who recommends each patient for the program. In the future, we'd like to connect our database to this Qualtrics new participant form they currently use, so this manual step is altogether dismissed. Next will be visualizing participant information. Our stakeholders over at Root Causes had verbally expressed their desire to expand the fresh produce program in order to apply more of a wellness focus to each participant. Thus, in the future, we'd like to see visualizations in the form of graphs and charts of participant data and information in the future once the admin team implements this wellness approach. Third would be enhanced security. We've been working exclusively with mock data, but in the future, this web application will be holding confidential participant information and medical records. So we believe it would behoove whoever takes this project on in the future to include more user authentication measures in order to make sure only specific individuals can gain access. Next, we'll be implementing a routing algorithm. As the current routing mechanism used by Root Causes is smart routes, as touched upon earlier by both Nicole and Bella, is faulty and unreliable, we'd like to implement a third-party routing service into our web application, thus eliminating the need to go elsewhere for the assignment of volunteers to participants in terms of drivers. And lastly, we'll be hosting the site on a cloud computing service. While we implemented one-way SMS texting into our web app, we were unable to conduct two-way texting as our site is currently on a localhost server, as discussed by Fidel. To recapitulate, we have given you the context surrounding the Root Causes organization's Fresh Produce program, shown how a web application can help to streamline their admin operations, the problem we've been tasked with solving, and the tools and technology we've used to begin conquering such obstacles. We've also demonstrated our web application and the progress we've made within the span of this 10-week program, alongside the myriad of challenges we faced along the way. And lastly, we've left you with future features we anticipate will be implemented by whomever takes this project on. We'd like to extend our greatest gratitude to our amazing stakeholders over at Root Causes, Esco Brummel, Willis Wong, and Linda Tang, our incredible sponsors over at Microsoft for the invaluable advice, our team leads, Kyle Skurnak, Vanessa Simmons, Will Sexton, and Todd Blanford for their guidance and support along the way. Jen Visas, Isabel Valls, Arushi Verma, and Christopher Hall over at Code Plus for the incredible opportunity we've been given to create something so meaningful, and Denai Adkison, as well as the rest of the collab for their vital support and counsel. Now we'd like to open up the floor to any questions.